Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today, at the request of a donor, we are playing a pretty spicy Doomsday build. So for those who are unfamiliar, Doomsday is a card that lets you search your graveyard and library for 5 cards and put them in any order, and that becomes your library, everything else is gone. So what you normally do is you set this up to win with Thassa's Oracle, because you can just rip through your library and you have no cards left. And there's a few different variations of how this deck plays out, but a lot of people do like cyclers and stuff like that. This particular build is trying to leverage the fact that Leyline Diamond is a bit of a busted Magic the Gathering card. So we're trying to use this, which you do see as a one-off in a lot of Doomsday builds, but we're trying to leverage it a bit more here. So we are playing a card called Fortune Teller's Talents. This is 1 mana, it's an enchantment. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You can level it up for 4 mana. As long as you cast a spell this turn, you may play cards from the top of your library. Now that's what we're interested in, because if we have this up and running, it means that we can set up our pile and immediately go through our pile. So what you sometimes find is you have to Doomsday, then pass the turn. And if you have a hand where you have to have something like a Brainstorm after you've Doomsday, then you can just Brainstorm and probably win the game from there. So we're trying to replicate that sort of effect more by having this Fortune Teller's Talent going. What this also allows us to do, which is kind of neat, is a very special line where we have Collective Brutality, which is generally going to be a bit of interaction with our opponent, but it has a Drain 2 life mode. And this is something that we can use if for some reason we don't have access to our Thassa's Oracle. If we've got the Fortune Teller's Talent running, what we can do is we can stack our deck with a Doomsday, because the first Doomsday will go to the graveyard. And then we can stack some Lion's Eye Diamonds and the Collective Brutality. So we're playing them off the top. We just generate loads of mana, Collective Brutality, Doomsday, shuffle it all back in, and just keep doing that. And we can just loop that until our opponent dies to Collective Brutality, which is kind of neat. It's a different way of approaching it that maybe works if our opponent's got something like a Dress Down or something that we're trying to play around. The Collective Brutality can help out on that front. Now, Doomsday is a difficult deck with lots and lots of lines. When you're able to tutor for just 5 cards and stack them in a specific order, there's a lot of permutations where you have to consider what we can do, what our opponents can do. And I'm going to try my best. I'm not a Doomsday expert. It takes a lot of reps to become a Doomsday expert, but there are a few out there and they're always awesome to watch. The rest of this deck is pretty much as you'd expect. We've got our Brainstorms, we've got our Considers, we've got our Force of Wills, we've got a bit of fast mana so we can try and get this out as quickly as possible. We've got Hand Disruption, Thoughtseize and Duress. And then we've got a little bit of stuff that we're trying to leverage here. So we've got Deep Analysis, which is obviously pretty good if we can Lion's Eye Diamond it out of our hand and draw some cards with it. We've got Edge of Autumn, which is one of our cyclers, so that we can cycle through our pile a bit quicker. And Spoils of the Vault, which is choose a card name, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card with that name. Put that card into your hand, exile all other cards revealed this way. You lose 1 life for each of the exiled cards. So we can use this to find the Doomsday, but it is a bit risky. But what we want to do with this a lot of the time is put it in our Doomsday pile, and it allows us to shred through our Doomsday pile without actually drawing additional cards in the face of something like Bowmasters if we're on a low life total. So there's some interesting levers we can pull. Personal Tutor is like the 5th copy of Doomsday here. And yeah, I'm excited to give it a whirl. We've got 1 Surveil land, 1 of each basics, 1 Cavern of Souls we can do uncountable Thassa's Oracle, and that's pretty much what we're doing. Sideboard wise, we've got the pretty standard 4 Barrowgoyfs here when we need to pivot into a different plan. We've got some Graveyard Hate, we've got some counter magic for the combo decks that go underneath us, we've got some Consigned Memory for annoying triggers and decks like Eldrazi, and just a nice catch-all and Echoing Truth. If you're interested in putting your deck on this channel, you can do that. Just contact me via my Patreon or in the comments or whatever. But today we are jamming this Doomsday build. So like and subscribe, and let's see if Fortune Teller's Talent is the secret sauce we've been looking for. If you want to play some Eternal Magic, why not check out the New York City first annual Eternal Team Trios Winter Tournament. This is a legacy, modern and vintage team event, and team events are always some of the best of Magic events going, so why not check it out if you're in the area. Okay, well, we have a copy of Doomsday, which is very much what we need to win the game, so that's a good start. We have some Hand Disruption. We have a little bit of defense as well. We just need to find the mana to get this going, so not a bad place to be. I will keep this. We probably just have to start on Underground Sea here. We have this, which we could use for a Surveil land, but I think we probably want to get a Thoughtseize off on turn 1, and this can only fetch us a basic island, not a basic island or swamp, so either way we're going to be exposed if we're trying to Thoughtseize on 1. Whichever way we do this. And this means we could use it to surveil towards a 3rd land on turn 2, or shuffle off of a Brainstorm on turn 2. So it gives us more options keeping this fetch land back. It does mean that we're playing into Opposition Agent or Stifle, but I don't think that's a card that we should necessarily, or those aren't cards we should respect unless we see them or see the indicators that they might be there. Basic Island. Let's have a little look. Okay, Lion's Eye Diamond, that's what we're trying to do here, so let's see if we can leverage that. We can use this to get into our pile straight away with a Deep Analysis. So I could see something like a Spell Pierce here to protect their hand, or they could have a Brainstorm to move some cards around so we can't take the worst things for them. Oh, that is quite the interesting one, isn't it? So they can have a lot of daze action. We can take the Force and just try and ram through it. I think that's okay. They don't have a way of reanimating this troll yet. Double daze, we can use a Lion's Eye Diamond to play around it. It slows us down a little bit in terms of being able to just immediately get into our pile with this deep analysis. Alright, so we're seeing the Brainstorm, not a surprise. This is the other card I was tempted to take, so we at least have the information about what we're playing around. There's the Underground Sea we knew about. Just reanimating a troll. I can Force of Will this into a daze. Is that important to me? I don't think so. We're better off trying to protect our win. But this is a very reasonable clock, and they've got some permission over here. Okay, so we found ourselves one of the tools we were looking for, which is the additional land. We have access to an Edge of Autumn, so we can start getting into our pile straight away, but we don't have lots of cyclers. So we can't just cycle through our pile immediately. A Ponder from our opponent. So we're going to have to do a pass a turn line, which is going to be a little bit tricky from this point, because we're going to be taking 6, and then we're going to be going to 6 if we pass a turn. So we're going to need to find a little bit more juice to squeeze here. Sometimes your opponent will make a 6-power creature on turn 2 with counterspells backup. And that is going to be awkward for you. And that is just the nature of the beast sometimes. Because losing half our life total is quite a big cost. We can put this into our graveyard. What are we looking for? So we're going to go to 5 life when we cast this Doomsday. They have 2 dazes that we need to pay for. The main way we can pay for this is with this Lion's Eye Diamond. Is there a pile we can make that wins with with how much mana are we going to have in our pool here? 2 mana in our pool. So we only have 1 mana in our pool because they're going to have both of these dazes. So we'll have 1 mana in our pool. So we could probably put a Brainstorm line. You can probably find a way to make that work. So I think what the play here is to... We're going to play out this Lion's Eye Diamond. We're going to float some mana. We're going to Edge of Autumn in case we find... Do we Edge of Autumn now, or do we take this as an additional draw? I think we just take this as an additional draw. But this isn't going to be in our hand if we have to crack the Lion's Eye Diamond, is the problem. If we crack it now, we can put it into our pile. So we're going to sacrifice this land to draw a card. This tells our opponent exactly what we're on. Then we'll cast this Doomsday. We can Force of Will the first days because it doesn't really matter. Because these cards are getting lost from our hand anyway. It just depends if we want the deep analysis. I don't think we do. So this goes and pitches the deep analysis. And then we can crack this and have 2 mana left over after our Lion's Eye Diamond. I suspect we're getting dazed again. Or they're going to Brainstorm because they put the daze on top somewhere. Okay, so there is the daze. So we need to crack this for blue. And we pay for the daze. There's a Brainstorm. We don't have a way of drawing extra card now, do we? We can set up our pile. We go to 4. We go to 5, then they kill us. No, that doesn't work, does it? Alright. I wonder how we're supposed to actually tackle that one. I think the way we're supposed to do it is we put the Doomsday on the stack. Then we Force of Will the first spell. Then we cycle Edge of Autumn. But in response to it, we crack the Lion's Eye Diamond, so we get to see 1 more card. Okay, a Lotus Petal, that's not going to help us out there. That's the correct way to do it, I think. That gives us 1 more go. But we had to do something because we're dying here. So, our opponent's doing some reanimate shenanigans. So I don't think a Leyline of the Void is a thing that I want to be skimping on here. I don't know how into the reanimate package they are. Echoing Truth can get a nasty monster out of the way for a while. So we have a Consider, which is something we can put in our pile to get to our pile a lot quicker. I'm just trying to think, is there any point changing anything here? So we could just go into like a Barrowgoyf style deck. I quite like just being more aggressive with our combo. And if they make monsters that we have to counterspell, then so be it. But I don't really want to lower our ability. I guess we could probably trim 1 Thassa's Oracle, but having 1 Leyline of the Void doesn't feel like a great place to be. I think we want to have all of our fast mana and just go underneath what our opponent's doing. Alright, I'm just going to resubmit here. If our opponent is the full-on reanimated deck, then we might be able to go in underneath them anyway. Okay, I will keep this. We get to probably start this game on a Surveil land. And then we can untap, Brainstorm, try and find our way through. I don't think I want to use the Lotus Petal on 1 to Brainstorm because this is something that can potentially give us that extra hit of mana for the turn we're going off to cast like Brainstorm after we've cast a Doomsday. Thoughtseize. Okay, so our plan here is changed. I'm going to get this Underground Sea. I'm going to cast a Brainstorm. What do we want to keep here? It's a funny old hand, isn't it? We need to keep our Consider on top. And we can use this to get rid of a card we don't want. And there are definitely cards we're not too bothered by here. Do I need to keep this Force of Will or not? Just pop back a Lotus Petal and a Force of Will here. Protect the Force of Will just so if our opponent's got something really busted that we need to interact with, we can later on down the line. We have the mana, so I don't mind exposing the Start Ritual. They can take the weird card. It's never wrong to consider a weird card and go, maybe we need to take this because I don't understand quite what it's doing. But then the Consider, if they don't take the Consider, then we can consider away the card on top, then play this. But we can still get rid of the Lotus Petal we don't want on top anyway with this Undercity Sewers. If they take one of our blue cards, which I suspect is what they do here. Okay. Right, took the Dark Ritual. Okay, that's fine. Like I said, we already have the mana. Do we want to have this Lotus Petal? I don't think we do. We've already got one in hand. Am I casting this Consider before Orcish Bowmasters becomes a card we have to worry about? That is an interesting proposition. Our opponent is not going to blow up our permanents, I don't believe. So I'm going to play this Lotus Petal out. I kind of want this Fortune Teller's Talent because I want to see what it's like in play. I've not seen this card in play before. I think I'm just going to fire off this Consider though. A Lion's Eye Diamond. That is interesting with our Fortune Teller's Talent. But if we have to Force of Will next turn, then we've got nothing. So I think we just have to... Okay, we have another Fortune Teller's Talent. I was going to say, I think we have to get ourselves towards the Doomsday. That's how we're winning this game. But we can Force of Will pitching the talent against something like an Entomb here. Okay, you can circle a Troll. We have the ability to pay around days. I do think we need to counterspell this. I'm really getting the vibes that our opponent is like more of the sort of mid-rangey build that has the Reanimate package in it, but not the full Entomb Reanimate package. That's been a very popular deck of late. Alright, that's their Force of Will gone. So this Fortune Teller's Talent is the sort of thing that can help us out of a spot. Okay, I'm going to play this. I'm going to name Wizard. I'm going to deploy the Fortune Teller's Talent. There's a Personal Tutor on top of our library. That is an interesting one to have access to, isn't it? But if we level this up now, that's going to cost us both Lotus Petals, whereas we can make it cost us one Lotus Petal. So if we play this all out, then we can Personal Tutor, but we're going to need to find something else because this isn't going to be enough. Whereas if we wait till next turn, we can cast Personal Tutor and Doomsday next turn if we leave this card. Oh no, we need 4 mana on this, don't we? And that's not going to be enough. So do we have to high roll? I think we have to high roll here with our Fortune Teller's Talent. Because this isn't going to be enough on its own. Right, let's do the weird card. That's what we're here for. That's what you all lovely people out there want to see. Cast this, but we can't because we haven't got any mana because it doesn't make it free. So we're going to get cracked down for a bunch here. And getting hit in chunks of exactly a third of our life total is a bit awkward. Down to the Voidwalker. That's fine. Are we going to probably lose a Black Source? Yeah. I'm not going to go after our Cavern here. Okay. What do we need on top of our library here? A Force of Will. That's not really the one, is it? So we can Personal Tutor and put a card on top of our library. We don't have any cards here that work. So we can get any sorcery. So we could get an Edge of Autumn. That doesn't feel like a great thing to do. That's just a redraw. Okay. I think the plan is a bit of a weird one. I think it's cast Personal Tutor. Maybe we do put the Edge of Autumn on top. Because that is just one more redraw. But we're kind of just trying to draw whatever's on top of our library anyway. So I guess we say no. Fail to find. We find the Swamp, so we get to play that. We found a Brainstorm. We can't quite cast that. Alright. We did not get where we needed to go there. That was a bit harsh. Like, our opponent had a very solid clock with Disruption, which is exactly what you want to beat Doomsday. Alright, let's go to round 2. We have a Doomsday. We have a Ponder. I like the tools we have at our disposal. I wouldn't mind some additional mana, but we can worry about that later. So I think we're just going Island rather than the Underground Sea here. Maybe that's cowardly and we're supposed to go for the Underground Sea, but getting wastelanded here is going to be a real problem. I think I just want to be able to leverage all these cantrips in our hand. Maybe this is cowardly. I want to ponder. Okay, this is fine. So we can put the Doomsday down and have access to that later if we want it. And then I'll take the Delta and the Underground Sea. This is a little bit of a punish for getting the island rather than the Underground Sea because we're not going to be able to just cast this. But I don't mind having a second Doomsday if we need to use our Force of Will defensively. Okay, our opponent's just going to clean up here. That is worrying. It's going to be reanimation. Yeah, there it is. So I think the plan here is to Brainstorm. We know one of the cards on top, but I think that's fine. Let's just Brainstorm, see if we can find some more interaction for this Griselbrand. Big fan of having this Thoughtseize though. Do I want double Doomsday in case our opponent is doing hand disruption? Because that is the sort of thing they could very likely have here. So Force of Will blue card seems good. I guess we put back 2 lands. Or do we put back land and Doomsday? If you put land and blue card, that's also fine. Because we need to have the mana to actually cast the Doomsday. A little bit of ways away from that right now. I will try that. Griselbrand suggests they're more on an all-in reanimator deck, so I think our mana base is going to be fine. So I'm just going to have a little crack with this Thoughtseize. Unmask, Animate Dead, Archon of Cruelty. What are we going to hit here? We can hit the Unmask and then force this Animate Dead out of our opponent's hand. Take the Unmask. I don't want our opponent to have knowledge of our hand. They can't draw a discard spell. I guess they could draw just another Unmask, right? But that's the only thing they could draw here. But if we take the Animate Dead and then they draw the Animate Dead, then that's bad for us too. This way we at least have a free pass counter. Okay, so they drew a Reanimate. That is a little bit worrying for us. Because that means they have this Animate Dead waiting in the wings. How are we going to beat this? Force of Will. That's not going to do it. So we need to beat a Griselbrand. I don't believe we can beat a Resolve Griselbrand very effectively. Because they're just going to be able to rip apart our hand. Having 2 copies of Doomsday might be enough. If we'd have got the Underground Sea on turn 1, we would have been able to cast the Doomsday on that turn, and maybe we can just win the game next turn. Okay, so they drew an Unmask as well. Do I want our opponent to see what they're doing? I don't think we're going to be able to beat this. I just don't want them to know what we're up to. Yikes. However, this is very much a matchup where the ley lines look pretty good to me. Also get some Force of Negations, because we just need to have maximum interaction going on here. I like the Discard effects. They seem pretty handy. Maybe we're trimming on some of this Lion's Eye Diamond stuff. So having 1 is quite common in these Doomsday decks. So I think we'll just have the 1. And that gives us a little bit more room for these things. And what do we need to remove? Spoils is the way that we get through our pile quickly. We probably need to keep that. If we're boarding out all these Lion's Eye Diamonds, Deep Analysis does look worse. Let's check on our blue count before we make any additional cuts. So we've got 22. That's fine. Collective Brutality is more hand disruption. I don't mind that. Maybe we're not supposed to have the Spoils of the Vault in and just rely on the Leyline to do some work. And then what are we up to now? Need to make 1 more cut. Are we okay going slower? We could take out 1 Fortune Teller's Talent. I think this Fortune Teller's Talent doesn't feel great, but it is a blue card. What do I want? I could board in some Echoing Truth or Consign to Memory. So Consign to Memory can stop the Animate Dead trigger, so they never get anything back. It can also stop an Archon of Cruelty trigger and buy us a little bit of time. That is an option. I didn't mean to be boarding out the card here, but this is obviously a very skewed matchup where we really need to get down to business here. So our opponent showed us Bayous, which means that they are running the Witherbloom Apprentice pivot. Do I want to have some ways of interacting with Witherbloom Apprentice? I think that is something I'm interested in. But these also aren't amazing against their Reanimate plan. But we already have something that is amazing against Reanimate plan. Okay, I'm going to board in a couple of Echoing Truths for their pivot plan. Because they have Witherbloom Apprentice and Chain of Smog as their little combo. Okay, so we start off with a Leyline. And we get to Thoughtseize them. We have Surveil Land. This is fine. I'm not super happy about this hand, but it is fine. Surveil Lands are good. And they should hopefully get us to where we need to be. I suspect our opponent is very prepared for something like a Leyline in the Void. They kept 7, so I'm not feeling amazing about this. There we go. This is exactly what I was talking about. So what do I want to do here? We can take out the Witherbloom Apprentice, or we can take out the Chain of Smog. If we take out the Withering Apprentice, they can fire the Chain of Smog at us. This can just provide pressure that we have to deal with anyway, so I think it is the Apprentice. And if our opponent wants to... We're going to play out our Lotus Petal so it doesn't get discarded from our hand. But this way, if they want to just do a Chain of Smog game where they just fire the Chain of Smog as disruption, we can just go back and forth and obliterate everything. And then our opponent's drawing off the top. And we're drawing off the top, but we have a Leyline shutting down most of their deck. I don't think they will fire off the Chain of Smog just as a piece of disruption, especially since they didn't see what we were up to in game 1. Whereas if they knew that we were Doomsday, maybe they would. Okay, so we have Hardcast Force of Negation if that's a thing we need to do. I suspect it probably isn't, and I'm just going to be Surveil landing our way towards a Doomsday. And we just need to make a Doomsday pile that wins, which when we've got 3 lands in play is going to be relatively doable. Alright, so we've got the second Underground Mortuary having a little Surveil action over there. So they got rid of a Grizzlebrand. They've kept a card on top this time. Okay. In our opponent's end step, let's get our Undercity Sewers and see if we can find ourselves a Doomsday. Echoing Truth. We don't need that one. Not right now. It is a blue card for Force of Negation. We can hardcast this anyway. A Consider. Okay, I'm going to play a land out because it makes it easier to do Doomsday piles the more land you have. Even though we could Brainstorm them back. So we have Force of Negation and Consider this turn if we want to. I don't really want to cast both in the same turn cycle because that will cost us a Lotus Petal. Chain of Smog targeting us. That is very interesting. How much do I care about what's happening here? I could just lose 2 cards and keep this Force of Negation. I could Force of Negation this. I'm just going to take the 2 cards. So we could, if we fire it back at our opponent, then nobody will have anything left. The thing is, this could be a line to try and exhaust all our stuff so they get something down. How do I feel about this game if neither of us has anything going on? I feel pretty good about that, to be honest. Okay, I'm going to discard, I think it's these 2 cards. And then, yes, I will copy it and I will target our opponent with it. So they can fire it back at us. They didn't want to fire it back. I will very much leave that on top of my library, please. Edge of Autumn. I think we have the win this turn if I can be clever enough to do it. So we might not have the win this turn. We'll see how clever I can be. So this is black, black, black for a Doomsday. So we can put a Brainstorm in our pile. So we want a Thassa's Oracle. We want a Brainstorm because that can Brainstorm us into this, which means you probably want the Lion's Eye Diamond. Do we have another... We don't have another way of drawing more cards though, do we? So we can Brainstorm, get some more mana. It doesn't quite work, does it? So we can go straight away, get our Brainstorm, cast our Brainstorm. We get 1 card in hand. That doesn't help us. But if we wait till the next turn, then we get more cards. We have a Consider in the graveyard, which is fine. I don't mind taking a Consider here. So we have a Consider, a Thassa's Oracle. We have lands already. We can't Brainstorm into a counter spell that we get to use, can we? On our next turn, we untap. We Edge of Autumn into Consider. Consider puts a card away. So that's 3 cards down, then we can just cast the Oracle. So we just put 2 Oracles. 2 Oracles, Brainstorm. Do you want a Duress? Do you want a Thoughtseize? Thoughtseize is probably fine as a thing that we get to do along the way. Do we get to do that along the way? I don't think we do actually, do we? The Consider next turn. We mill over the Brainstorm. I guess it doesn't have to be a Brainstorm at that point, does it? So, yeah, so next turn we Consider, mill something over. That's 2 cards down. And we draw the 3rd card down. Then we Edge of Autumn, that's the 4th card down, and we cast the Thassa's Oracle. And we play another Thassa's Oracle underneath that. So it doesn't really matter what the next card is, unless it's something that we're really worried about. So I guess maybe we just put the Echoing Truth in there as a little hedge. So we've got Consider, Oracle, Oracle, Echoing Truth. Again, it doesn't really matter what the last card is, does it? Force of Will? I don't think that's right. But I think this is enough to win, which is what we're trying to accomplish here. So we want the Consider on top. We want an Oracle at the bottom. And another Oracle. So we're going to get 3 cards deep into this pile immediately. 1. Drawing for turn. 1, 2, 3. We get 4 cards deep. So we do get all of these cards next turn if I've done my maths right. And then we go Echoing Truth and the Force of Will, and then the Consider. Okay. I think I've navigated a pile that wins us the game next turn. I find Doomsday a lot easier to play in paper. I just find having the cards in my hand to move around actually makes my life a lot easier. Right, so we Consider. We mill away the Force of Will, I guess. And then we float blue off of this. Cycle this away. We have one card in library. We cast Thassa's Oracle. If this doesn't work, we get to go again next turn. Alright, I managed to do a Doomsday pile. Cool. Always nervous when I cast Doomsday. So, we did manage to find a way. There's probably a way that if we had a deep analysis, we could have gone for the Lion's Eye Diamond and the deep analysis. That's certainly an option. I suspect our opponent is going to be more onto the Witherbloom plan now they've seen the ley lines. Are we supposed to pivot ourselves, or do I like where we're at? They're not really going to pressure our life total, so I think Doomsday is a fine place to be. Don't want to get this deep analysis back in. I could see having a deep analysis over... Do I need an Echoing Truth? Do I need this Collective Brutality? Maybe I'll take out the Brutality. It is interaction for what our opponent's doing, and it does kill their Witherbloom, but it doesn't kill their Witherbloom if they're going off at instant speed. Take out a Petal. Let's try that. I want to keep my blue count high. Let's try it like this. We have Disruption, but it's not very good Disruption against a deck that can kill us on turn 1. I think we need to mulligan. I would like to have a Leyline, obviously. I don't think I'm going to mulligan to Leyline, but I think we need to have something on turn 1. The beginning of the game was 7 cards. That is terrible news for us. This is Force of Will and then nothing else. I don't like it. Okay, I don't mind this one. So we get rid of this Thassa's Oracle. We don't need that. Do I get rid of the Duress or do I get rid of the Dark Ritual? I think it's probably the Dark Ritual and just play quite defensive here. We have a Surveil land. We have the graveyard covered. The Duress can take out a Chain of Smog or an answer to our Leyline before they get to cast it, and that's fine. And then we're kind of sitting on some interaction. We need to find some mana. We need to find Doomsday. But we bought ourselves a lot of time. Spoils of the Vault. Alright. So we can Duress now, or we can get a Surveil land. What feels like the stronger play for us right now? I think the cowardly play is to play the Duress here. They can't Thoughtseize us off of interaction. I guess they could Thoughtseize us off of Force of Negation. Off of Force of Will, so we have to rely on Force of Negation so a creature can get through. So something like a Barrowgoyf if they've pivoted. So I think that means I'm going to Duress them now. Cabal Therapy, Entomb, Reanimate. None of these cards do anything apart from the Cabal Therapy, so that's the one I'm going to take. Okay, I don't mind the spot we're in here. We're basically just going to be drawing cards back and forth until something breaks. Now I have lots of cantrips in my deck, so it should favour me. Right, we have double Force of Will. I think we're locked up to not die immediately, which is nice. Opponent has the double Surveil land action going on in their deck, which is nice. Another land for our opponent. A Thoughtseize. Yep, sure, go ahead. Take a look. They can't take us off of Force of Will. They probably just take... If they've got Cabal Therapies, they might take the Force of Negation, so they have access to strip both of our forces in one go. Yeah, that's what they've done. Command deck. A Lotus Petal. We'll play this so it can't be taken out of our hand. It gives us access to a little bit more mana. We're getting close to having enough mana. We can also beat a Witherbloom combo if they just sent it right now. Cabal Therapy. So we're going to lose 2 Force of Wills here. That is unfortunate for us. Yikes. We drew another Force though. I'll take that. Where are all of our cantrips? Got a bunch of them. Okay, so they fetched the end step just for that very, very marginal thinning percentage. Alright, back over to us. A Lotus Petal. I'll play it out. So we have the ability to cast a Doomsday if we top deck it. So if we don't play the Lotus Petal out and our opponent takes it from our hand, then we won't be able to cast a Doomsday if we draw it. If they have some sort of like Assassin's Trophy style card that just takes our Leyline out, then they get to immediately Entomb Reanimate, which could obviously be annoying for us. But we do have a Force of Negation to break that up. But that only works on our opponent's turn. So it would have to be the thing that hits their Entomb or Reanimate. Spoils of the Vault. Sure, maybe this wins us the game. We can always counterspell what comes out of it. And I'll take a free potential win when we're kind of spinning our wheels a bit over here. The name Witherbloom Apprentice. It was the first card. What is this sorcery? That's some real sorcery from our opponent right there. An Underground Sea. Sure. I'll just keep playing these lands out. I don't think I want to hold them for Brainstorm when we have temporary mana in these Lotus Petals. They know we have an Echoing Truth, so they know that this won't work if they just send it. So they're probably just going to be beating us down for 2. Which, you know, is fine. Can't believe their Spores of the Vault, though. Not doing them any damage. A Cabal Therapy. Targeting us. Okay. What are they going to name here? The Echoing Truth they know about, most likely. We don't get quite as good an exchange if they want to go for it, though. Because we can make them discard everything. We wait till they're hellbent, target themselves, then we bounce this. Okay. But they know they can't just combo off now. Another Witherbloom Apprentice. That is a problem for us. We know their hand, and it does nothing. But these two guys are pretty solid. A Collective Brutality. That is nice. That is a nice one. I would like to cast this. I would like to -2. I would like... Is it worth us getting rid of this Force of Negation? I don't think it is. 2 life is kind of nice, but I think we're just going to kill this guy. We are shields down on Force of Negation, but it means if we don't draw anything next turn, we're not dead to a top deck Chain of Smog. Okay, back over to us. A Doomsday, you say? Okay, let's cast this. So we're going to go to 7 life, and this takes us down to 5. So we want a Thassa's Oracle here. We could just Vault, and we get rid of like a bunch of cards. So we could just go Oracle, Oracle, Spoils of the Vault. Well, we bought out Spoils of the Vault, didn't we? I see, I see. Consider Edge of Autumn does the same sort of job, doesn't it? Consider Edge of Autumn, Oracle, Oracle, and then it doesn't really matter what the last card is, I don't think. Just trying to work out if there's a way we can just... We can't win right now, so we have to win next turn. This is fine. Just have an Underground Sea. There's probably an optimal choice of what to put in here. But if we're just going next turn anyway, our opponent's got 1 turn to try and beat us. So I guess we just go whatever. So we put Oracle on the bottom. Then another Oracle. Then the Edge of Autumn. Then the Underground Sea. And the Consider. We need to fade 1 turn from our opponent here. So we're just going to mill over the Underground Sea. Into... Yep. This is just to deal us some damage. This also takes a bad draw out of their deck. Makes it slightly more likely they hit Chain of Smog. We're not doing a Spoils of the Vault line. We don't need to. We can just do what we've got set up here. Take 2. That puts us to 4. Alright, they're scooping it up because they believe we stacked our pile right. And we have. We went over how it would work and we managed to get that match. I think taking the defensive posture is essential here, and it did work out for us. We respected the Witherbloom Apprentice, so they had to respect our Echoing Truth, which is pretty decent. But yeah, I'm happy with how I played that one. Let's go to round 3. I like having access to Ponder. I'm going to keep this. Maybe this is how we get to do some fun Fortune Teller's talent stuff. I really want to get this to work. It's a cool card. So last time we fetched a basic island, I regretted it. So this time I'm going to fetch an Underground Sea. I believe in our ability to find some more mana here. And maybe the fact that we're doing this maybe shows our opponent that we don't care about wasteland and they don't wasteland us. 2 lands. Very much looking forward to having those. So let's sandwich his Thoughtseize between 2 lands. So the aim is next turn to Brainstorm, Thoughtseize. Have a little look what we're up against. So we can work out how much protection we need when we go off. We can also stop them if they are some busted combo that's going to wreck our deck. Okay, so we now know roughly what our opponent's up to. A Bauble, they should use this in our turn to try and flip the Delver. So what they do is they target themselves in our turn, and then when it gets to their turn, they know the top card of their library, they can choose whether this trigger goes on first or this trigger. So if they know the card doesn't flip it, they draw a card before looking at the Delver. Okay, so let's Brainstorm. I don't really want this Thassa's Oracle in my hand. It's a lot of lands. I guess we're just chucking back these 2 Oracles. Do I want to Ponder here, or do I want to Thoughtseize? I don't really want to Thoughtseize now. I want to wait till our combo turn. I think we are casting a Ponder. Go away, Thassa's Oracle. I don't want you. The Collective Brutality is fine, but it's not what we're looking for. I think it's in any order in shuffle. These are like glue to my hand. I cannot get rid of them. So maybe we're going to be on Fortune Teller's talent time. We could also just use a Thassa's Oracle as a 1/3 creature. I doubt we're going to be able to block this Delver, given the fact that they've got 2 shots at flipping it here, and it's probably got reasonably good odds of flipping based on the construction of their deck. Alright, they drew first, so it wasn't immediately flipping. Ooh, they didn't flip it. Good news for us. Do they have a follow-up? What particular variety of Delver are we looking at here? Could be Grixis, blue-red, could be the blue-black mid-range one with some reanimates in. Volcanic Island. Dragon's Age Channeler. There it is. Yep, that's quite the card. Now we're getting a Ponder, so they're going to set up their Delver as well as bump up their Channeler. This is going to be 3 types in the graveyard for Channeler. So they're getting close to having 2 3/3s attacking us next turn. And that is a lot of pressure for our deck to handle. So maybe we're going to need to Fortune Teller's talent this game, which would be cool. A Lion's Eye Diamond. We could get weird with it. We could get weird with it, couldn't we? If we go... Let's Thoughtseize our opponent first. See what they're working with. I think our plan might be to Fortune Teller's talent, play 2 LEDs, crack an LED to flip this to stage 2, and see if we can rip off the top. Because we're under a lot of pressure here. Okay, I'll take the Force of Will. Okay, opponent, are you ready to see some weirdness? I think this is better than casting Thassa's Oracle. Let's bring the weird. This does also flip their Channeler, but they've got Brainstorm, so they're always going to be flipping their Channeler anyway. A Ponder, I don't mind that one. If we're casting the Ponder anyway, maybe we should be cracking this for blue. So we have access to black here. No, I think we crack this for black. And then we go level 2 here. I want to keep some black in the pool. Let's cast this Ponder. A Lion's Eye Diamond and another Ponder. We've already played a land, but I think I'm okay to play them like this. So we get this out. This gives us more mana to operate with. We can cast this Ponder. We're getting weird with it. This is in any order in shuffle. I'll play his Lotus Petal off the top. This Force of Will is not really helping us out here. How much does this cost? 3 mana. I don't really want to make this up to the next level. I think we just got to pass here. Okay. We got to see quite a few extra cards with this Fortune Teller's talent. Now, it cost us some resources, but we ended up with a reasonable amount of stuff in play. Okay, so they're brainstorming in the upkeep so that they can flip the Delver. We don't really know what they've got in hand, so let's just close that down and not rely on those things because they could have all sorts of stuff. I imagine they put another Brainstorm on top. So that's a card we've already seen, so we're not getting any extra information based on what their Delver reveals, and Brainstorm is just a very fine card to manipulate their deck and do all the things they want. Right, Murkside is gone. If we find a Doomsday and resolve a Doomsday, I think we just win on the spot, which is really cool, which is the whole point of this card. So I'm looking forward to trying it out. Okay, they're revealing the Brainstorm like I said they would. I'm going to take some damages here. So we're very much in a situation where we need to win when we Doomsday. And this Fortune Teller's talent should hopefully make that a thing that we get to do. I don't know how much interaction our opponent's going to have. They've done some sculpting. Alright, bash to the face. We've taken some damage. So we only get to rip off the top if we play a spell. Do we need to Brainstorm and have lands? I don't know. Okay, let's go to level 3. We're very dead to Lightning Bolts. This level 3 is unlikely to be relevant. Do I want more mana to cast more spells off the top of our library, or do I want... I guess we probably do. If we have Brainstorm, the cards are on top anyway. Alright. How are we getting through this? I don't know if we have any way of casting a spell to get this to trigger is the issue. The fact that this has the as long as you've cast a spell, that is the issue we're struggling with here. If this was just like a future sight, okay, they're just bowling us anyway. That's fine. Yeah, that was a bit tough. We couldn't quite find our pieces despite having like triple cantrips to begin with. What helps in a matchup like this? Barrowgoyf is very hard for red decks to kill, so I'm going to play some Barrowgoyfs. Are we going completely off of the Doomsday plan? I don't think we're supposed to go all the way off of it. Collective Brutality is an odd one because it kills some stuff, but not everything. We could, I hate to do this, but we could get rid of these Fortune Teller's talents and just go for this, but then our Lion's Eye Diamonds get worse. So maybe we're not supposed to. Maybe we're supposed to trim some Lion's Eye Diamonds and some Fortune Teller's Talents rather than just stripping them all out. Deep Analysis costs us life. I don't think we necessarily need that as part of our pile. So we could trim that. We could trim one LED, trim one Fortune Teller's Talent. To trim a second LED. If we have 2 LEDs, then we can do a loop here. Because that gets us 6 mana. So that's 3 for Doomsday, 2 for the Brutality. That seems okay. So we can do that loop with our Fortune Teller's Talent, which is something I really would like to do today. I think there's arguments for running some of these like Leyline stuff just to slow our opponent down, but I think most of the time we're going to regret doing that. Alright, let's just try and Dark Ritual out Barrowgoyfs, which is good provided they are not in line of bot range. This hand is Island Ponder. That's an okay place to be, but we don't want this in our opening hand. 2 Lotus Petals is a lot. I think we can do better. Alright, this is more like what I want to do. I will keep this. What are we putting back here? Are we just saying no to the Dark Ritual? How much do we need these Force of Wills? We could put back the Duress, but the Duress is a sorcery that gets us sort of up and running. Feels pretty good. But if our plan is turn 1, Undercity Sewers, mill something over, turn 2, land, play Barrowgoyf back by Force of Will, then it means we probably have to put back the Duress here. What have we got? Something I want to mill over would be nice. That is a different type to what we have in hand. Like a Lotus Petal or something would be fine. Let's get that artifact in there, because our opponent might put a sorcery in for us. But we just need to make sure that this doesn't die to Lightning Bolt. A land. We don't really want the land. We can go into the graveyard. We've got our line. We want our opponent to cast a Ponder this turn. That would be beautiful. That would really help us out. Volcanic, just cast a Ponder. Blue mana, it's a Delver. We could counterspell this and put a creature in, but I don't think that's where we want to be. Another Force of Will. This is such pain. So we can counterspell one thing. So we can make this a 2/3. But then it just dies to Lightning Bolt. And I just don't think we can play this out in a way that dies to Lightning Bolt. I think we need to give our opponent another turn to try and like cast a Ponder for us or something. At this stage I wish we'd have kept the Duress, but we obviously didn't know that we would be drawing another Force of Will here. A Daze. Yeah, that's another issue. We already have that kind of covered because our whole plan was to Dark Ritual Barrowgoyf around Daze. We don't have another Surveil land, so there's no point cracking this. That is obviously a pain for us as well. Don't like seeing a Wasteland poison ready to ruin our day. I wanted you to cast a Ponder, opponent. Like, it's the whole ball game is trying to get through this Barrowgoyf. We could counterspell this because it's going to beat us down anyway. Alright, because we've got another Force, any blue card gives us Force of Will. Please don't Wasteland us though. It's my request. Okay, so Barrowgoyf is dodging bolt range now. They Wasteland us. That sucks. Because we know they've got a Daze in their hand because they revealed it to Delver. A Doomsday. That's not really where I want to be, is it? Okay, let's pass the turn. We need a land and a blue card ideally. Now, Barrowgoyf can make up a lot of ground here. Doomsday. What we can also do is play the Barrowgoyf and then play Doomsday, attack with Barrowgoyf, mill our library, get the Oracle, cast it. That's a pretty cool line. Okay, they put a Ponder in. Barrowgoyf is certainly chonking himself up a bit. Like I said, we only have one Surveil land, so there's no point fetching yet. We can take a little bit of punishment before we're in proper Deadsville. Was this going to be another threat? Feels like another threat. It's a DRC. They've got 4 cards in hand. I think it's getting to the point where if we draw a land, we have to send this. Oh, a Thoughtseize. Okay. We get a Swamp here. If we go to 10, we take 6. And 6. This is going to be 2 turns anyway. So I think we have to Thoughtseize and make it more likely our Barrowgoyf resolves next turn. Alright, they're just dazing. That's fine. I'm happy with that exchange. That means that maybe we have to Dark Ritual out the Barrowgoyf next turn anyway. We had to do something here. Because we couldn't beat the Daze. Okay, so now they're on a 2-turn clock. This is a problem. Because we play the Barrowgoyf next turn, then we die. We're just getting absolutely bodied here. I would always prefer to be on the Delver side. Obviously, I like playing Delver, and I'm a lot better at that than I am at Doomsday. But I think Delver has a really good shot here. Alright. Let's hope our opponent makes some kind of wild mistake. Are you just going to counterspell this with the daze? Yeah, that Wasteland just absolutely ruined us. Which is why it's in our opponent's deck. And they got a nice little 2-0 there. Alright, 3 rounds in, 2 more to go. Let's see if we can cling on and get a positive record by winning the next 2. We don't have cantrips to find what we're looking for. I don't think we can keep this. I have reservations about keeping a hand that looks like this. I don't think I can keep this. We'll be relying on this Brainstorm to find us a mana source. I think we just need some solid mana underneath us. Okay, this one looks fine. So we can get rid of this, and is it a Brainstorm or is it a Lion's Eye Diamond? The combination of these 2 cards is very good. I think we're just going to keep the higher power cards here. Let's Undercity Sewers first. So I think Brainstorm on average is going to be better for us than a Lion's Eye Diamond is. Okay, so we have the mana available to us now to put the Doomsday on the stack on turn 3. That is a little bit slow, a turn 4 kill in Legacy. But we at least have it available to us. And if we Brainstorm, maybe that changes things up a little bit. I believe that I want to Brainstorm here before Orcish Bowmasters becomes live. See if we can find something useful. We also get to hide the Doomsday on top if that's what we want to do. Or we could just cast the Doomsday right now. It would be into a daze. I was once told by an actual good Doomsday player, A, B, C, D, always be casting Doomsday. So maybe that's what we're going to do here. We're getting Stifled. That'd be novel. Or they try and play around our Stifle. If we get Stifled here, I believe I stack the top card of my library to be a land. Oof. Yeah, we got there. I do believe we did put a land on top from our pile. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure we did. A Wasteland. Alright, our opponent is very much in it. I imagine they're probably like Stifle Naught. That's the deck that would reliably play Stifle. Let's cast a Dark Ritual. Let's cast a Doomsday. Can I have a Doomsday, please, opponent? We can. Wowzers, trousers. Okay, I want Thassa's Oracle. I want a Cavern of Souls. I want an Edge of Autumn. I want a Lotus Petal. And doesn't matter what the other card is. We don't really have a 0 mana way of drawing stuff. We have Lion's Eye Diamond. So if we have a Lion's Eye Diamond, we can Brainstorm into Lion's Eye Diamond. That probably works, doesn't it? So the problem is we want to make sure our Thassa's Oracle doesn't get countered. Do you just put an island in there as well? Just rely on our cantrips, because our opponent isn't doing anything over there. Maybe I select this pile too quickly. So island on the bottom, I think. And then, is it Lotus Petal or is it Oracle? It's probably Lotus Petal. Because we don't know if we need the Lotus Petal yet or not. And then it's Oracle. Then it's probably Cavern. And then the Edge. Okay. We can win as long as our opponent doesn't have removal next turn. Or we can wait a couple of turns and then win. Our opponent isn't doing anything right now. They've just been like impacting our resources rather than trying to establish their own game plan. So in theory, we might be okay. We also have these cantrips which can do some work for us if we need them to. So we go down to 4 cards in our pile. This puts us down to 3 cards in our pile. This puts us down to... Sorry, this puts us down... Yeah, to 3 cards in our pile. This puts us down to 2 cards in our pile. I don't think I want to go off into a potential dress down here. Maybe that's something I should have been thinking about a bit more. Let's cast a Ponder, shall we? Let's just leave them in the stack they're in. So we want Oracle, Petal, Cavern. Just get through our pile a little bit there. If our opponent just holds up Dress Down the whole time or Stifle, then we do lose. So maybe we're supposed to put a Thoughtseize in our pile. Or multiple Thassa's Oracles is another option. Hedge Maze. So we could be looking at like an Uro pile that has Dress Down into Uro as a line. Or Dress Down into the Dreadnoughts and that sort of jazz. A Wasteland. Yep, it's pretty good. So I've assembled a pile that can't beat Dress Down. That's relatively important to note. Does our Lotus Petal resolve? They don't have white removal, so I guess we're just going here. I believe we're just going to get Dressed Down and lose the game. Yep, so our creature doesn't have any abilities. Yeah, if we'd have put a Duress in our pile somehow, maybe that works. This is definitely where my knowledge of playing Doomsday comes back to bite us a little bit. So I think this is a matchup where we maybe want the Barrowgoyf because they have so many good tricks against our actual combo. So I'm into having the Barrowgoyf as an alternative pivot plan. I think we're going to do something similar to what we did before. We trim some diamonds, we trim the Fortune Teller's talent, and we trim one other card somewhere. I don't actually mind the deep analysis here, just as a way of drawing stuff. I don't know if Collective Brutality is realistically going to kill any of their creatures. It does give us the loop that I do want to perform, so I'm going to leave this in. I think this is one of the cards I think about taking out. Same with the Spoils of the Vault. Go take out Spoils here. Let's try taking that out. Okay. I think our opponent is in a better spot than we are. So we could bring in Consigns to hit something like a Dreadnought, but we don't know if our opponent is full Dreadnought. They might just be... The fact they've got Hedge Maze makes me think they might just be a sort of control-y deck that happens to have a Stifle and a Flex slot, maybe. Or maybe, you know, it has Uro in it anyway, and then it has like a little Flex slot. What does this hand do? Struggles a little bit with mana. I think we have to mulligan this. Okay, this is fine. Do we Force of Will check our opponent, or do we Thoughtseize? The fact that we have the Thoughtseize means we probably should just fire it off. We'll get rid of one of these lands. The reason I got rid of the land rather than Force of Will is I would like to have that option of maybe having a backed up Doomsday next turn. Okay, so what do I not like here? Their whole deck is certainly a problem. I guess we take the Force of Will. I'd at least like to try and resolve my Doomsday, and then we can work out what the actual pile is that beats Dress Down. Beats Dress Down and Stifle. Going to be a bit awkward trying to do that. But here we are. So we get... I think we want the Underground Sea here. Just to play around in case they drew a Daze. Can we get a Doomsday off? I wouldn't be surprised if they Brainstormed in response. But if they miss on land here, that's very good for us. Obviously, they may have to miss on land and miss on counter spells. But yes, this doesn't look like... There probably are Dreadnoughts in the deck, but it looks much more into like this blue-green pile than it does a full-on Dreadnought deck. So they might just have 2 to 3 Dreadnoughts in their deck instead of being fully dedicated to the cause. Part of me doesn't want this to resolve because then I have to work out what the correct pile is, and that's not very easy. So we want an Oracle, and we want a Cavern of Souls. I think we want a Thoughtseize. We want a land that we can fetch with our land, with our fetch land. So I guess we put another Underground Sea in there. And then what do we put in there instead? Brainstorm, just to manipulate the deck. We need another blue card for our Force of Will. This gives us Force of Will. So we put the... Yes, we say done here. So we put the Underground Sea on the bottom. Because we can fetch that whenever we need to. So it's basically a four card pile at that point. So we have the Oracle and the Cavern. And then the Thoughtseize and then the Brainstorm. And just play it a little bit slower. We don't care about the Collect Truth. We do care about the Stifle and the Dress Down. Did they hit a land with their Brainstorm? If they didn't, then it's going to tax the amount of resources they have that actually impact us. A Wasteland is fine. We don't mind that. Is it annoying? Yes. Do we care that much? No. Our opponent's deciding whether it's worth holding up the Dress Down or having Stifle Wasteland available. Looks like they're going for the Dress Down unless they want to waste us in our upkeep. Right, so we can just go next turn. So what we can do is we can fetch our land, and then we can Brainstorm. They're just cycling this Dress Down. Fine. That is a good sign for us. I don't really want to Brainstorm because I want this to be a blue card for Force of Will. But I guess we have to see what our opponent's up to. Because if they have a land and play an Uro, then we need to go underneath that, but then they're not going to have mana to interact with us necessarily. So let's see what they go for. This Uro won't draw them an extra card either. And it won't put them a land in. So they won't have any mana. So in theory, we can just Brainstorm and Thoughtseize through. And that'll be okay. Alright, if our opponent's not doing anything, we don't have to do anything either. There's the Thoughtseize. We don't need to fire that off now. We're going to have 4 mana on our go turn. So we just continue to draw some cards. So we've got land, Cavern, Oracle as the 3 cards left in our deck. Now there's probably a better way of going about this. But I am very much ticking all the boxes I can here. We've got Surveil land. They might just be like straight blue-green and not have any white, so we don't have to worry about plows on our creatures. That'd be interesting. Okay, they're doing the Dress Down line again. Let's get an Uro in. Well, they might not be getting the Uro in. We don't know how many Dress Downs they have in their deck. I have to assume 4 at this point from what we've seen. A Ponder. Okay. So while we're not under pressure, we don't need to be trying to accelerate our clock here. We can just keep drawing some cards. If our opponent doesn't make a threat now, then we can just draw a card and pass again. So we can be empty decked next turn, but we won't have Force of Will if we do that. I quite like the ability to have Force of Will and an empty deck if we just wait. Okay, got a land there. We're still just chilling. A Phyrexian Dreadnought. What does that mean for us? That means we need to go next turn. We could Force of Will this and hope that the Thoughtseize does enough. But then that's the same as just brainstorming here, isn't it? Because this will kill us on the next turn. So we need to do something now. Okay. So the question is, do we crack our fetch land first or not? There's one card left in our deck. Will they stifle this? Maybe. Right, let's Thoughtseize our opponent and see what the damage is. How many pieces they have. This feels like a better Doomsday player would have won this game. They have Force of Will. We don't care about that. It's just a stifle. That's all they have. So we actually win this game, right? So we play this on Wizard. Have an uncounterable Wizard. They can't stifle the trigger. They can't remove this. They got no removal. They can't counterspell this spell. We have an empty library. It's all spot on over here. All right. Well, I won this one, even though I'm not a better Doomsday player, so I'll take that. So now we have a little bit more idea what our opponent's doing. Do want Consign to Memory. This is only going to hit Dreadnoughts. I don't think that's how I want to play this game. If our opponent's tapping out for a Dreadnought, we just want to like smash them and win. So I think this is fine as we've gone. Again, I want to try this Fortune Teller's Talent combo at some point. So it's going to stay in the deck in situations where maybe I would board it out. Barrowgoyf can trade with any monster because of Death Touch. That's nice to have. It can give us life back so we don't have to worry about stuff. It looks like they're very removal light in their deck and they're just a blue-green Dreadnought list. With Uros, they're just trying to be bigger. Who needs removal when you have massive yachts, I guess is the idea. So hopefully this Barrowgoyf can stick around and do some good work for us. I'll keep this. We have a turn 1 Barrowgoyf backed by Force of Will. That is reasonable. We could try and Personal Tutor, but that could go wrong for us. Okay, I think we're just going to send the Barrowgoyf here. I will force pitching Deep Analysis given the opportunity. Just get this in. It's not the most impressive in size right now. Our opponent could just play like a Collector Reef and Blanket. Okay, so we've got Force of Will, which suggests our opponent doesn't have a Daze. So I will force back and try and get this Barrowgoyf down. Now, these forces won't increase his size because Dark Ritual is an instant, but we're going to have a creature in play. All right, we have a win condition. Opponent probably doesn't have a lot of removal, but they might have some creatures that are big enough to make this look like a bit of a clown, but it should trade because of the Death Touch. Misty Rainforest. If they crack that, we get bigger. I'm going to I kind of want to Brainstorm here, actually. If we can Brainstorm and Thoughtseize, that would be really nice. Okay, we don't need this for now. I don't think we're on the Doomsday plan, or is it just the Personal Tutor we get rid of? Let's get rid of the Personal Tutor, don't we? That makes more sense. This. I would like to Thoughtseize my opponent here. So if they dress down in response, we won't get anything from our Barrowgoyf, but our opponent won't get whatever creature they're trying to put in. So dress down, Uro. Not in love with this selection of creatures our opponent has access to over there. We can't take a dress down, but we might as well take one of them. If we take the dress down, then if we don't take the dress down, they have an Uro next turn. So I think we have to take the Uro, but I don't like that very much. It buffs our creature, but our creature is going to be 0-1 by the time it connects because they're going to just dress down and save themselves some life. But if they're using dress downs like this, it means they're not using dress downs to put an Uro into play. So they're paying 2 mana, cantrip, gain 4 life. Which was like one of the lesson cards, I think, from the Wizard set from ages ago, Wizard School set. I'm pretty sure there was one that was just 2 mana, gain 4 life, and then learn. Sorry, off on a tangent there. I was looking at some weird stuff on Gatherer today for reasons. Collector Oof. Okay. Our creature is certainly the biggest game in town right now. There's the Wasteland. You can waste me if you want. It's all about Big Daddy Barrowgoyf right now. I'm going to play this land out. And I'm going to cast a Ponder. Personal Tutor, Force of Will, Ponder. I'll take a Ponder, I guess. Teller's Talent. Do I want any of these cards is the question. Not really. Isn't any orange shuffle, I think. We found a land. So now we get to crack. So we could have used the Barrowgoyf to clear the first Ponder. But I don't know if it's actually going to connect. Yeah, there you go. But we should have at least seen if it was going to connect or not. before firing off the second Ponder. That would have been a bit tighter in general, as a bit of play there. A nice little forest from our opponent, so they can get close to having this Uro. Our Barrowgoyf is so nearly there. We will play our Bloodstained Mire out. We will surveil land straight away, in case we put something that grows our Barrowgoyf in. I do not need another land here. That does not grow our Barrowgoyf, unfortunately. So we're going to see a dress down again, so you just gain 4 life, draw a card. There it is. That's very defensive. Like, they must know that we don't have many creatures that Barrowgoyf can actually find. So next time we can attack, and then deploy a Doomsday, and then set up a pile so that if the Barrowgoyf connects, we just immediately win on the next turn. But this is just going to be an Uro, which is obviously pretty big news. Right, they've got Uro. They've shrunk our Barrowgoyf by doing that, which is pretty important for them. A Ponder. Is there a way that we can Ponder into something that wins us? I think we cast the Ponder anyway because we already have sorceries actually, don't we? What are we looking for from this Ponder? Is it worth pondering now, or do you want a Doomsday and have the Ponder available next turn? I think it's better to Doomsday. This way we can play around the days. Okay, so we're in with the Doomsday. I would very much like to have access to this Thassa's Oracle and this Cavern of Souls. Those are two of the things I would very much like to have. We've got a lot of mana, so I consider makes sense in this pile. Would I like another cantrip in this one? I think so. And then, do you just want a Lotus Petal to stick in there as well? It grows our Barrowgoyf if that's the thing we want to do. Or do we want... We probably need the Thoughtseize. We've already discussed this before. We keep finding ourselves wanting a Thoughtseize. Okay, so we'll say done here. And then we need to work out what we're doing. So we can Ponder this turn just to get one deeper. And then I think it's Cavern of Souls on the bottom because we can Thoughtseize we might not need the Cavern. We have the Oracle. Then it's the Edge, consider Thoughtseize. And then we cast the Ponder. So we want to... So we got the Thoughtseize in hand. Do we attack? I don't think we do. It's annoying. It means our opponent gets another card. But I think we need to hold back if you want to cast this Thoughtseize. I'll take the chump block, gain 2 life, kill their Uro, get the Thoughtseize down next turn. So we can Thoughtseize, Edge of Autumn, consider Oracle. So we have the win next turn if we want it. Well, we need to make sure the coast is clear. That's what the Thoughtseize is for. If they have multiple lines of interaction, then we will lose to this. We could have put another Doomsday at the bottom so that we could just go again, worst case scenario, but I don't think that's a line that I want to entertain right now. Right, let's gain 2 life and kill the Uro. Brainstorm from our opponent, sure. So I think the play is to Thoughtseize our opponent and see if next turn is the turn that we're going or not. I guess it has to be next turn because we don't really have better options. We have the tools we have and that's it. I think we might have stacked our piles slightly wrong and the Oracle and the Cavern might need to be the other way around to how we've put them. But I don't think we're trying to play with an empty pile. Our opponent hasn't shown us any ability to interact with us on that front. They're just trying to stifle and dress it down. A Ponder, this is less mana our opponent has available to interact on our turn. That's good news. 5 cards in hand for us to beat. They shuffled off that Ponder, so they're not floating anything on top for us to worry about. Let's Thoughtseize our opponent and see if this is enough. Veil of Summer. Well, well, well. That seems like a problem for us, doesn't it? Okay. If they have a Stifle, we can't win this game. Have I stacked these the right way around? I guess it doesn't matter. We're playing around dress down rather than any counter magic. Just go. If they have a Stifle, we lose. If they have the counter magic, we lose. If they have nothing, we win. Feels like we're getting stifled though. There it is. And that is the round. Yeah, that was a close game. I don't know if we're supposed to do anything differently there. Obviously, you know, we're playing Doomsday. We have a million different options available. So obviously we could have done something differently. But based on the information I had, just having a Thoughtseize in our pile was probably about the best we could do there. Unless we wanted to play a slower pile. That gives our opponent more time to accrue advantage. We didn't know if we'd be able to even trade with the Uro. And the Uro is coming back pretty soon as well. Yeah, tough one, that one. The deck with loads of main deck ways of interacting with Thassa's Oracle is not really where we want to be, is it? So we are 1-3. So we're looking for a 2-3 record to finish off the league. Let's see if we can put that together. Okay, we have Island Ponder. That's not a bad place to be. We have counter magic for if our opponent's doing busted stuff. We have Personal Tutor, so we have Doomsday available. I'm going to keep this one. Right, so we're trying to ponder into things like Dark Ritual, so that our Personal Tutor can actually cast what we want it to cast. A Doomsday. So we can do an all-in line involving Lion's Eye Diamond. I think I'm just going to put the Doomsday on top to protect it from Thoughtseize, take this land. So what we can do now is use a Personal Tutor to go and get a Thoughtseize and see what our opponent's doing, just have more interaction with our opponent. Now again, we're going to need to find a third black mana from somewhere. So the question is, where are we going to get that third black mana from? Do we have to brainstorm now to do that? And maybe this Personal Tutor becomes a blue card for Force of Will. That is acceptable. Right, we're going to do it now, so we have to worry about things like the Orcish Bowmasters that could be coming down on turn 2 from our opponent. Okay, we don't need all these Lion's Eye Diamonds. Now, in our opponent's turn, if we don't need to pay for a daze, we can then go and get a Surveil land and get a little bit deeper and try and find like a Dark Ritual or something. This island is jamming us a little bit more than the regular Doomsday builds would. Mero Regery. Am I supposed to care about Mero Regery? I don't think so. Doesn't feel like a thing we're supposed to care about. Am I going to lose to Merfolk? I lost to Merfolk the other day, actually. And hopefully I'm not going to lose to Merfolk twice in the same month. That would be a lot. It'd be a big blow. Okay, let's have a look and see what our Sewers is finding us. A Ponder. Okay, that can help us find the mana. That's probably better than an average draw. Okay, so we found the mana. We could go now. I don't know if our opponent's running Daze in their deck. So we can play out this Lotus Petal right now and just cast a Doomsday. Or we can wait till next turn. I think I'm just going to Doomsday and try and send it here. Because we can do some fun stuff with our Lion's Eye Diamond Personal Tutor Brainstorm action later on. I will Force of Will pitching Personal Tutor if I have to. I do have a Daze. Alright, I feel we might be about to get blown out here. We've got Force of Will and Daze over there. Well, this is going to suck for us. If we'd have waited one more turn, we could have at least played around the Daze. So that's on us, really. Phantasmal Image. We could have played out the Lion's Eye Diamond so that we had the mana to pay for additional Dazes. But they pitched an Elvish Spirit Guide earlier. I don't really know what's going on over there. But I think we're going to lose this one now. Am I just secretly really bad against Merfolk as a player? Is that what's happening? Okay, so I'm tapping their Wasteland, which is a cool thing that Mero Regery allows you to do when you cast Merfolk spells. So we're going to Tide Shaper our land. So this doesn't produce black mana anymore, which means it's going to be more difficult for us to ever cast a Doomsday. So this sort of reason is why I wanted to go earlier, in case they start messing with our mana and make it more difficult for us to go off. But that has certainly caused us some issues there. Go Gadget Brainstorm. Spoils of the Vault. That's certainly a Magic the Gathering card we're allowed to cast here, isn't it? If we put back this and this, we haven't played a land yet. Okay, here we go. We might be about to die. So we play this out. We crack this now to go and get ourselves an Underground Sea. Hold priority. Play this out. So we hold priority. We play Spoils of the Vault. In response, we add triple black for Doomsday. Let's see if we're about to die. There's so many ways that this goes wrong for us. We're on 3. That sounds like we're about to die to their guys. Okay, we needed to not go down that low. Our opponent in a previous round, it was a top card. Not for us, though. Okay, Merfolk. What am I supposed to do against Merfolk? Just play some Barrowgoyfs and just batter them, I guess. So we'll do this similar cuts we've been doing before. Getting rid of at least one talent here. Collective Brutality I like. Maybe we'll get rid of... We need to keep the talents in because we want to do the thing here. Maybe Spoils of the Vault isn't the way because we're going to be under pressure life total wise. So we'll try this. Just with these 4 Barrowgoyfs in. Hopefully they can just beat up on them little fish creatures. But their guys are going to be unblockable, so it's mostly going to be on attacks. But that's fine if we're getting like chunks of 5 life every turn. That can offset 2 creatures attacking us and buy us a lot more time. And maybe help us rip through a pile super fast. Okay, we have a Dark Ritual, which can make a Doomsday easy to cast for us. We have a Ponder, so we can try and find what we're looking for. I think that's okay. I believe in Ponders. So the Thassa's Oracle, because we have 2, this one can just be pitched. Although, if they play Lord of Atlantis, it does pump our own guy, which is quite amusing. Do we have to play around Wasteland? I don't think we... Actually, we can play around Wasteland because we have the Dark Rituals. Deep Analysis, another Ponder, I don't mind. Do I want this other land? Probably... Do I want the land or do I want the Deep Analysis? It's probably the land. I'll take another Ponder for next turn. So we can shuffle away, have a fresh look with a Ponder, and also possibly cast a Doomsday next turn. I think we went a little bit too early in the previous game, but a Merfolk deck can put you under quite a lot of pressure, and that's really annoying. So I don't really want to get pressured down too much. We had an opportunity to cast it with Counter Magic backup, especially since our black sources were under threat. Okay, so we crack this, go and get ourselves a Underground Sea, and we'll cast this other Ponder. Barrowgoyf. I do like a Barrowgoyf. The Fortune Teller's talent isn't actually that bad here. So we have the Dark Ritual, so we can make the Fortune Teller's talent work for us a bit more. The problem is we need to have enough stuff to cast to make it work. But let's just jam a Barrowgoyf. It's a 3/4. That's pretty beefy. They can't daze because they only have a Cavern of Souls. So it has to be a force. We can force back pitching Thassa's Oracle, and then try and ride the lightning that is Fortune Teller's talent. Let's say no to their Force of Will. Do you have another one? If they do, then we're both going to be pretty low on resources. Okay, they didn't. We got a Phantasmal Image out of our opponent with some weird art. I've not seen a Phantasmal Image ever before. That's pretty freaky, isn't it? With a little clown. Tap into people's Chorophobia. Anyway, I believe that if our opponent makes a creature this turn, the biggest it's probably going to be is a 2/2. So we should just be crunching into that with a much bigger creature. And they're not really going to have answers to this. I doubt they brought in Dismember for a Doomsday matchup, which is why the pivot is so strong. Although maybe they were fearful that we'd have things like Shouldering and stuff. But they probably just are relying on stuff like Soporific Springs to bounce out of play and hope that's enough. An Uncountable Tide Shaper. Okay, so we're going to lose access to black mana from our Underground Sea, but that's fine. We've got a Swamp in hand. This is only while this is in play as well. So if they ever have to chump block with this. So the top card of our library is a land that we don't want. So I'm going to crack with the Barrowgoyf before I play my Fortune Teller's talent here. I'm not expecting them to counter the Fortune Teller's talent. So we'll pop this out. We'll say yes. So we go 1 mana for this weird card. They can't daze us because they don't have any islands. A Doomsday. Huh. I do like the idea of casting a Doomsday here. So we're going to turn on our Fortune Teller's talent. That's what we're doing with this Dark Ritual. And then we just need to find another black source to cast this Doomsday. Or 2 more black sources actually, because the Tide Shaper is shutting us off. But this is investing in the future to get this up and running. Like maybe we're supposed to just draw this and go. But let's face it. You came here to see me do Fortune Teller's talent nonsense. And this is the closest I think we've come to doing that so far. If we can put this Doomsday on the stack, then we can win the game with the Fortune Teller's talent combo. And that is pretty cool. We're probably just going to beat down with Barrowgoyf, and that's going to be how we win the game. But if I get the opportunity to, I'm going to do this. That's what we're here for. This is also a really horrible opponent to have bounced or prismatic ending because you invest so much mana into it. I guess it is possible that you might be able to do it all in one turn in terms of playing it and leveling up and then start casting spells. It's basically just casting Future Sight at that point, except you can use Lion's Eye Diamonds to cast, to activate it, whereas you can't use Lion's Eye Diamonds to cast a Future Sight. An Uncountable Mirror Regery. This pumps their Tide Shaper. They're going to get in for 2, but we're cracking in for 4. Sorry, they're getting in for 3. We're going to crack in for 4, and we gain life, so it's kind of like 8 damage almost. And if we're just counting it as a race here. What have we got on top? A Thoughtseize. So we can cast that next turn. We can't cast any spells right now, but we can level this up. Okay, let's just Barrowgoyf and attack. If we draw another Barrowgoyf by milling over, then I will very much put another Barrowgoyf into play. No creatures. And still a Thoughtseize on top somehow. Okay, Fortune Teller's talent. It's your time to do nothing, I guess. I think it should just be Future Sight. It shouldn't have to be as long as you've cast a spell. It feels like so much work. Like Future Sight isn't exactly seeing lots of play anywhere, is it? So I think just having a Future Sight that you can pay in installments would be a reasonable Magic the Gathering card. But we can draw a Thoughtseize next turn. That gives us a card to cast, which means we'll be able to cast stuff off the top. But we only have one black source. So it's a little bit awkward on that front. Obviously, we're just crashing with Barrowgoyf, and that might just win us the game. Right, we've got 5 damage coming in. So we're taking 1 damage a turn cycle at the moment. As long as our Barrowgoyf continues to crash, we're okay. Okay, we're going to draw a Thoughtseize. What's underneath it? Because we actually have access to this if it's a blue spell. It's a Barrowgoyf. Okay, so our plan is going to be attack with Barrowgoyf, draw this Barrowgoyf. Are they going to bounce it? They got that annoying stun guy. Hex catch. Okay, so just going to tap our guy down. Sure, that's certainly irritating. I wish we had more black sources though. Am I supposed to hold on to this Thoughtseize so we can start casting stuff off the top, or am I just supposed to Thoughtseize and take out a Lord? I think is probably the best play here. They can sacrifice a Merfolk to try and force spike this. I would love that. Sacrifice all your Merfolk, please, to counter my Thoughtseize. I will take the creature that deals damage. That seems fine to me. Oh, I crossed the wrong one out there. Alright, it doesn't matter. If we had black mana, we could cast this, but we can't tap this for black mana. Because this makes your spells cheaper now. We've got the final section on this. Okay, so they're crashing for... Also, the creature with flash means they can tap our guy down and mess up our race. So this is, what, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's going to put us to 5. So then we have to attack here. Because we need to get a hit in. Because we don't know if this creature is going to be tapped when they attack next turn. A Brainstorm. Okay, it's not necessarily doing it for us right now. They draw another Flash Merfolk. That would be irritating. Just let me Barrowgoyf here. It's just a little Barrowgoyf. Nothing to be afraid of. So they can get rid of our Lion's Eye Diamond and reduce the amount of damage that the Barrowgoyf does. I wonder if that's something they're interested in doing here. Because we know they've got a Fairy Macabre in hand. So they could take out Lion's Eye Diamond and... I can't remember if Fairy Macabre has to be the same graveyard or not. Up to 2 cards from graveyard. So they're getting rid of their creature and the Lion's Eye Diamond, but this will put a creature into their graveyard anyway. Do I want to mill over some cards here, or do I want this Brainstorm on top for next turn? I think the Brainstorm is good enough that I want to just keep this. And then we're going to jam another friend. So now we can block with this one. That 1 damage might be clutch. So if our opponent has access to a Merfolk here. Oh, they drew Daze. Very rude. Okay, so this game comes down to whether or not our opponent draws a Merfolk. No, it doesn't. Right, they just have us dead, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They just have us dead. I just lost a Merfolk. Again. Twice in 1 month. What is happening to me? Alright, so that is the end of the match. And that is also the end of the league. We finished off with a pretty poor looking 1-4 record. Now, one of the rounds we did split the games. But this was not a good performance from the deck. And I definitely think there was ways that we could have improved things in terms of my play. I am not a Doomsday player by any stretch of the imagination. But that being said, I'm going to talk about the list and give my thoughts on it. So, this Fortune Teller's Talent thing, there was only one game where we really played cards off the top. The fact that you need to play a spell to get the chain going is a huge drawback that is much bigger than I thought it was going to be when first looking at this card. That definitely jammed us up a fair bit. We never got to live the dream of just having Doomsday with this out and charged in play and just going, because generally speaking we want to go Doomsday a bit earlier rather than investing mana into something like this. So it does seem like we're not going to have enough mana to invest in this a lot of the time, unless we've got multiple Lion's Eye Diamonds, which is obviously what this list is trying to do. But in order to play the 3 Lion's Eye Diamonds and the Fortune Teller's Talent, we're losing things like Personal Tutor, which makes us more reliable. We're losing things like Daze, which makes us more durable. So we're kind of giving up the consistency to do our thing in favour of something splashy. And the splashy thing, honestly, as sad as it is, I don't think it's worth the squeeze in terms of what we're getting out of this. It felt like I just wanted, 3 Personal Tutors and some Dazes to keep us going, and that would have been fine. Obviously, we probably end up losing the Collective Brutality, and there's a few other bits. I don't think this is an improvement over TELLER Doomsday. I don't believe the person who donated this deck thought it was an improvement over Doomsday either. It's just a fun thing they've been messing around with that they wanted to see on the channel, and I fully respect and endorse that sort of behaviour, because I love to play weird stuff. And it's much better to let me play your sort of slightly weirder brews rather than you wasting your own play points because, you know, I have a sponsored account, so I get to do this weird stuff for you. And it's nice to get more eyeballs on a card like this, whereas if you're playing it on your own, maybe not enough people will see how it looks, but now I can say, okay, this is how it plays out, have a look at this video, and that can be very useful for people. So this is a thumbs down for me, but I think the record is, yes, partly reflective of the deck having some inconsistencies and some weaknesses, but I will also say that I will fully expect some lovely people in the comments to tell me ways that I could have won some of the games I lost, because Doomsday frazzles my brain a little bit. But I think the first round, it was just, okay, we cast Doomsday, we die the next turn, we don't have a way through. I think we could have waited one turn against the Merfolk. That probably was a mistake in game one. I kind of just disrespected Merfolk a little bit, and it came back to bite me, and that's going to keep happening, I suppose. Oh dear. All right, anything else to say about this one? Barrowgoyfs were great. They always are, I suppose. Spoils of the Vaults. I do like this as a thing to rinse through your pile, but I think there's so many interesting builds of Doomsday. Like some have things like Unearthing so that you can play your Thassa's Oracle, and then if something happens to it, then you can just bring it back within Unearth, and that's a really cool idea. And there's ways I've seen of getting through piles where you don't have to draw extra cards, so you can get through Bowmasters. There's lots of cool stuff going on in the Doomsday space. And honestly, I kind of wish this was a deck that I had lots of reps on and I could be really good with, because it is a really fun deck with loads of cool lines that heavily rewards familiarity with the deck and getting your reps in, which is something I haven't done. I probably played, I don't know, maybe 10 leagues of Doomsday, something along sort of that ballpark figure over the course of like 2-3 years. And that is not enough. And I've also played some weird builds of Doomsday along the way. I played a really nice Death Shadow Doomsday build once, actually. Maybe I'll return to that at some point. That was a bit more my sort of level because it was a Death Shadow deck with Doomsday, whereas a full-blown Doomsday deck has so many different options and little sort of tricksy things to pull here and there that I really struggle with it. Especially when I can't have the cards physically in my hand so I can just pass them to one another, because I like to be quite tactile in my thinking sometimes. All right, I hope you enjoyed this one. I'm always happy to play something a little bit unusual, and I hope you lovely people out there enjoyed it as well. All right, please remember to like and subscribe. It does help the channel, and if you would like to have your donation decks on the channel, you can get in touch via my Discord or my Patreon, or you can just shout me out in the comments and we can work it through there. But yeah, once again, really appreciate everyone who comes to watch my channel. It means a lot to know people love seeing Legacy being jammed. And with that, goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepts as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepts guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.